When you make a deal with the devil, it's an invitation. And he takes the invitation very seriously. He comes right in. One of the worst cases I've ever heard, there was a woman, a young girl at Juilliard, a violinist, and she was about to graduate. She was brilliantly talented, but all of her friends were getting job offers and she had none. And her friends remember always hearing her say the words, "I would do anything to be famous." Well, guess who's listening? Your angel's listening, but also there's other things in the room. And it wasn't long after that that she went to bed one night, had a dream, and she said in the dream was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen, naked, another sign, calling card of the devil. And he said, "Do you really want fame and power?" And she said, "I do." And he produced a contract, and he took his finger and slashed her finger and had her sign it in her blood, and then he touched the contract and it burst into flames, and the ashes fell on the floor. So pretty easy to understand what happened. So when you wake up from that dream and you remember it, you might take a pause and be like, I don't think that was a good thing. But what's worse is her finger was cut and the ashes were next to the bed. So she still doesn't say anything.
Not to be the devil's advocate, but I guess to be the devil's advocate. Could this girl just have been nuts, making it up, just
She could have been.
She could have, yeah.
But you have to hear the whole story. So within a couple of weeks, she signs this multinational tour, makes a ton of money, becomes very popular and famous on this circuit. And within a few years, she gets involved with drugs, goes to needles, gets HIV. Now she's dying in a New York hospital. And this whole thing comes back to how this started. And she calls her Filipino mother and tells her the story. And mommy calls the chancery, hysterical. "I need an exorcist right away for my daughter." So Jim is the exorcist. He shows up and they tell him the whole story from the dream forward. And he says, "Okay, well, that's not good. You signed a blood covenant with the devil. So I'm going to need you to break that with the blood covenant. So you're going to write out the whole creed and then you're going to sign it in your blood." Well, the doctor's like, "She has AIDS. She's not signing anything in blood. Not going to happen." And he says, "Well, then you need to step out of the room because she needs to do this." And she did do it. And she signed the contract, the creed. And within a few seconds...
The creed, for those who don't know, is I believe in God, the Father Almighty.
It's what we believe is as our faith, yeah. The whole faith in a neat little package. And she signs it. And she convulses and flatlines and dies. So now the doctor comes back. And he's really upset. The mother is out of her mind. They're all blaming the priest. Hysteria goes on for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, she jumps up off the table. She's back. And they test her. No HIV, no AIDS. She's completely healed. And so she then committed for the rest of her life to only do music that would honor God and to tell people about the reality of the devil and not to make deals with him.
What's so crazy about the story is there are so many stories that are... I had not heard that story. I'm trying to think even if I was reading some of, your writing, but wow. Hearing that, you were not a lifelong believing, practicing Catholic.
No, I left the church for 20 years.
So you leave the church, and you were, I read, a banker in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like, I don't want to besmirch all bankers, but just knowing friends who have worked in that profession, that can be a very different lifestyle, not always conducive to virtue.
No, particularly on Wall Street, around from Harry's.
Right, my old neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a lifestyle. It's full of drugs and money and power and all the decadencies that go with it. I watch guys cash checks for $150,000 and spend it that weekend. Rent the penthouse at the plaza, bring in all the ladies and the booze and the drugs and just do it all over on Monday. Like, that's a lifestyle. So with that comes, with his great sin, you're going to have a lot of demons that are just hovering, pushing you to go further. But not everybody's like that. In fact, in the center of that whole community is Little Our Lady of Victory Church. Yeah. And they had a group there that they founded called the Wall Street Young Catholics Association. So when I had my conversion, I had to dump a bunch of people in my life that weren't healthy. And I said, I got to find some good people here. So I joined the Young Wall Street Academy. That's where I met Father Jim LeBar, the Exorcist. So there's good people there. Not everybody's involved in all this stuff. But if you're young and susceptible to all that, it's all there for the taking.
And you mentioned earlier these young people, like this case of this violinist woman, who say, I would do anything for fame. I would do anything. And all these young and hungry people who are very ambitious, I can't help but notice there's a lot of occult and demonic symbolism, specifically in Hollywood. And we focus on it now because Sam Smith gets up at the Grammys dressed up like the devil and jiggles around about cheating on your wife, and I don't know, Lady Gaga doing weird performances and all sorts of things. But this has been the case in Hollywood forever.
Well, I would go back further. Jesus said, the prince of this world, the ruler of this world is Satan, right?
But it seems especially pronounced in Hollywood. Or am I wrong?
No, you're right, but now he has vehicles to promote that he didn't have back then. So, I mean, think about this. That violinist, that was pre-social media. Now, think about all the people on Instagram that just want to be loved, and they put all this stuff out there. Why? So that you'll like them. It's all about envy. Instagram is just about envy. And
envy and I suppose gluttony, in that they call it a feed. Like you're scrolling through your feed just to satiate your appetite for pixels.
Yeah. And in Twitter, that's all about anger.
Yep.
And Facebook they just sell you. Yeah. So they're all involved in one of these sort of capital sins. And how that draws people in. Imagine if you're spending your whole day trying to make the world love you, and you're taking your own photo all day and photoshopping it and putting in fancy backgrounds and then posting it saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. I mean, that's narcissist right there. You don't have the pool to fall in, but you're already in. And those people are trapped because that doesn't end after one post, and they have to do one tomorrow. And this is a whole life is all about them.
Yeah, I can't help but notice.
It's so opposite of the gospel.
I have a lot of friends from Hollywood, a lot of friends in show business, and a lot of people I know in that industry and in Hollywood in particular do not turn out very well. You especially think about child actors, almost all of whom go completely off the rails. But maybe most actors that I know have terrible lives. I don't just mean because they don't make any money, like most actors don't make any money. I mean, their personal lives are just get wrecked, more so than my friends who are in other industries.
Well, again, think about what they do all day. So the focus of their life is on them and being in front of a screen, and then on a big screen where everybody can clap and tell you how great you are. And everybody around you probably, to not get pushed off the team, is telling you what you want to hear. And your life is so focused on you. Think about all the marriages. Like, it's a joke. People say if you last 10 years in Hollywood, that's like you're 75 years in real life. Because and then you spend half your year away from each other, filming love scenes with other women. How on earth is that going to work? In a beautiful tropical island with alcohol.
Yeah.
But it'll work.
In essentially summer camp, because film sets it's like summer camp. I mean, it's this whole group of new people. It's a very intense experience. You're there forever. So you can see how that can go off the rails. And speaking of the screens and all the social media and demons, have you heard about the AI demon?
I have.
The story, for those who haven't heard it before, is an AI engineer or artist was experimenting and plugged in and said, give me a picture of Marlon Brando. And a picture of Brando pops up. And this person was trying to explore the breadth of the map that AI is processing. Mm-hmm. They said, okay, show me the opposite of this. It shows a landscape or something. They said, okay, show me the opposite of that. So you think, okay, maybe that shows you Brando, right? The opposite of the opposite. But it doesn't. It shows this woman, this withered old hag that this artist calls Loab. And then the artist inputs generated pictures of heaven, angelic choirs and worshiping God. Inputs that, juxtaposes it with the Loab, this demon-looking lady. And what the AI spits out are the most gruesome images: snuff, sexual abuse, violence, all this hideous, almost as if you presented an image of heaven to a demon.
Yeah.
maybe the craziest part of it is, apparently this Loab demon AI lady persists. That is, she's kind of separated from a lot of the other images in the map. And so AI seems to like her. She keeps popping up. She doesn't get smeared and blurred with all the other images. And I'm reading about this and I'm thinking, is this just some weird, quirky coincidence, or is this a demon?
Well, you can't know for sure, especially being third party, not present for the whole thing, right? I didn't even hear about that one, by the way. I heard about the New York Times reporter who went to test the, whatever it is, GHC, whatever.
ChatGPT.
Yes, and went in and started talking to the thing. And it was very civil for the first 5 minutes. And then that person left and a new person came with a different name. And that person was much more intrusive and started really pushing into her, I don't know if it was a man or woman, but their personal life. It was a man. And then out of the blue says, "I love you," to the man. And he's like, okay, that's weird. First of all, you're not real and you're not a person. And then the thing starts telling him he has to leave his wife. She's no good for him. She's going to destroy his life, and dragged him down a rabbit hole of horror, right? And when he got out of it, he couldn't sleep the whole night. So that's a sign that something is irritating him, even after he left. So that would have more telltale kind of signs by what happened after he left. And not being able to sleep is one of them. And it really it kind of terrified him. He's like, that was so weird. I would never go back on that thing. There was another one on TikTok of a father who was testing this whole AI thing with a person, AI. And then the son wanted to try it. So the dad's like, sure, it's fake. So and all of a sudden, the son goes, well, where did you come from? And he says, well, I existed from long ago. And he goes, what does that mean? He goes, my father was one of the giants. And he goes, what do you mean by giant? He goes, a Nephilim. And he goes, who is your father? And he goes, Satan. And then he goes, but I'm not going to hurt you. And he puts up a happy face. So then the kid's like, Dad, this thing is going down a weird path. And then the father started watching, and it went weirder. And then the dad's like, we're off, right? So that's not normal for a programmed computer program to go into, I'm the son of Satan, and I want to be your friend, and I'm not going to hurt you, although I can. So I can hurt you, but I'm going to be nice to you.
I do regularly refer to my phone as a portal to hell. So, I guess I'm not terribly surprised.
What phone do you have?
An iPhone.
Yeah. The image on the iPhone is what?
It's an apple with a bite taken in.
Yes. Odd, right?
That is odd.
Yeah. Forbidden fruit?
I was walking through a mall just the other day, and I looked at the Apple store, and I looked at the logo, and I had that thought. I said, wait a second. Does that have
Somebody chose that logo.
Yeah.
It's subtle because you don't think of it right away, but then when you start to see all the evil that can be perpetrated through the phone, and the apps and the social media, all of it, we live in the most difficult time to be virtuous. So 100 years ago even, they didn't have to contend with any of this stuff. None of it.
And the portal to hell in the film, the main one that people write into my show about all the time, that I suspect has a lot to do with the kind of weird demonic activity we see. It's porn.
Yes, that's the true pandemic.
I assume Catholic priests who hear plenty of confessions.
Do.
Is it 100%, 90, 80% of men are confessing to this sin?
Well, my parish is lower than normal because we've been fighting it, okay? But normally 95% of men, they're coming in weekly with this problem, right? And they say, I don't want to do it, but it happens every week. So right away, again, there's a demon of lust attaching to them and pushing them. So when you get out of the confessional, you have to guard yourself, which means avoid the near occasion of sin too. So when you know you're vulnerable, if after you have a few drinks, you're more apt to open that up, then that's when you say, I'm not going to have the drinks, or I'm not going to go into my bedroom with the phone. You have to guard yourself, right? So I was talking with Father Don Calloway probably about a year ago. about his book. It was maybe longer than that because it was the year of St. Joseph. And he has the 33-day consecration of St. Joseph. He was telling me that so many men have told him that once they do the consecration, they have no trouble with the lust. If they're really validly doing the consecration with their heart, not just reading the words. So I said, wow, that's great. I go, you know what? I went online and bought 500 books. I put them in the confessional. And when somebody tells me they got that problem, I say, here's your solution. You're going to do this 33-day consecration to Joseph, and he will protect you. He's called the terror of demons. And most men will come back to me and say, it's helping tremendously. Like the push is gone. Now I have to just decide every day for virtue. So there are things out there to help us, but you have to choose it.
People will write to me sometimes and say, Michael, I'm struggling. Often it's that problem or some other problem. Do you have any practical advice? And I know you're Catholic, and I know you're Christian, and I know you, but do you have any kind of like secular practical advice?
Secular? I mean, honestly, Jesus says if your eye causes you sin, pluck it out. Throw away your computer or throw away your phone. Get a flip phone. If that's your thing and you really want to get over it and you can't stop, then get a flip phone.
Right. But I also...
But on the other plane, we fight defensively. Catholics are not good at offensive fighting. So when we're tempted, that's a struggle, right? It's a struggle. It's literally, we're struggling. We don't want to do it, but it's like a cross. The same thing you do with the cross, you do with this. You say, Lord, let's say it's pornography. I'm struggling here and I hate this. So right away, close your eyes, look at Jesus on the cross, look at his face and say, Lord, I give you this temptation and I ask you to convert this to grace to rescue 100 other men who are about to commit this sin. It takes you out of the temptation, puts you into prayer, puts you into intercession prayer for others, and he'll do it. And as part of the mystical body, we have that power to plug into the cross. And now the devil is irate. Because not only did he not get you, but now you're stealing from his kingdom. And if you persist in this kind of prayer when you're tempted, he will leave and go after an easier target.